My wife, Lauren, was nervous, and I was filled with hope as I entered the gathering. I had extended an invitation to attend Olivia's cookout, and I was holding out hope that this get-together would help us overcome our increasing estrangement. Holloway Industries was founded with Lauren and me as partners. We were partners in life and in business for a long time. Tonight, I wanted to honor the affection and toil accomplished by her departed father, Walter Holloway. But everything slid off course. I had tried to forget the nasty confrontations, the silent treatments that had filled our recent days. Sitting by the snack bar, drink in hand, I attempted to smile and laugh with the other guests, thinking that my light-hearted approach could dissipate the tension. But as I mixed with Lauren, I felt it building. I knew immediately something was really wrong. Then, with a look of pure fury, Lauren's voice cut through the pleasant buzz of conversation, rising over the crowd like a sharp blade. In that split second, her words struck me like a ton of bricks, and suddenly, the music, the chatter, the warmth of the evening, it all faded. Olivia, who had always been faithful to Lauren, startled, her friendly expression transforming into a cold, judgmental gaze. And in that moment, I felt the weight of betrayal press down on me. Then, suddenly, I yelled out, "You took her business!" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire, turning into angry murmurs, then into accusations. The air grew thick with tension. Someone threw a napkin at me, a vulgar, humiliating gesture from those I had once called friends. My heart pounded in horror as Lauren's features twisted into an emotion of self-righteous wrath. "My father established that company for me, and you—" She spat, her voice shaking with rage. "You twisted him when he fell sick." I wanted to speak, to explain, to fight back, but it was too late. The crowd's hatred had already sealed my fate. Their looks, filled with hurt and betrayal, left no room for my words. And in that moment, I realized the gesture of reconciliation I had hoped for had been nothing more than a cruel trap. I was being publicly humiliated, tossed out like a felon, in a place I once called home. With every step toward the exit, I felt a burning mix of shame and determination. The night air did little to soothe the sting of betrayal as I walked to my car. My mind replayed every moment, every laugh Lauren and I had shared, every late night spent planning our future, every quiet promise of support that had now crumbled into dust. Tears welled in my eyes, but beneath the pain, something else was growing. Resolve. I would not let this define me. I would not let this be the end. I vowed in that dark, chilly moment that I would fight back, against the lies, against the betrayal, against the falsehoods that had turned my friends into enemies. Holloway Industries was never stolen. It was lawfully mine, and I would prove it. The bitter sting of humiliation now burned within me like fuel, igniting a relentless determination. I would face not just the accusations of this night, but the deeper wounds of my marriage, the shattered trust of our family's legacy. Sitting alone in my car, the engine idling in the stillness of the night, I gripped my drink, letting the weight of my memories flood over me, the good and the bad, the love and the pain. And in that moment of solitude, I made a silent promise. This was not the end. This was the beginning of my fight. I would uncover every buried truth, expose every lie, no matter how ugly. My heart, heavy yet determined, beat steadily as I stared into the darkness, considering my next step. The road ahead would be long, fraught with obstacles, but I was ready. Tonight, I had been tossed out like a criminal. Tomorrow, I would rise again, stronger, wiser, and ready to claim what was rightfully mine. Sitting in the darkness of my car, the weight of the evening pressed down on me. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, replaying every cruel word, every accusing glance. The bitter taste of betrayal was unbearable. The silence that replaced our once warm understanding left me feeling more alone than ever before. I couldn't comprehend it. How had the woman I loved, the mother of my children, my partner in running Holloway Industries, how had she turned against me so quickly? Then, a realization hit me like a freight train. This was never an accident. Lauren had plotted this. With cold precision, she had orchestrated my downfall, not just to embarrass me, but to dismantle the very foundation of our life together. The sting of injustice gnawed at my insides like a constant agonizing ache. Then, my phone buzzed. The screen flashed with a name, Caleb Morrison, the trusted attorney who had handled Walter's will. The message was short, urgent, commanding. Call me. Now. His words cut through my despair like a knife. My pulse quickened as I grabbed my phone. My fingers were shaking as I answered. "This has gone too far." Caleb's voice came through, his tone sharp, filled with barely controlled fury. "If she wants a war, we'll give her one." His words sent a shockwave through my system, a mix of hope and something darker. Vengeance. I listened intently as Caleb laid it all out. Lauren had been working for months, undermining my reputation, twisting the truth, poisoning our relationships with our business partners, our clients, the very community that had once admired us. But she had made a mistake. Caleb had the proof, undeniable, evidence that would shatter the illusion Lauren had spun. Documents, emails, financial records, even a recording, one that could expose the depth of her deception. I had been blind, but Walter hadn't been. He had seen through Lauren's greed long ago. He had left behind more than just a company. He had left behind a legacy, a trust. And he had documented everything. A sense of vindication flooded through me as I listened to Caleb explain. Lauren had challenged the will not once, not twice, but 3 times, and each time she had failed, because the truth was on my side. "You have your laptop?" Caleb asked. My heart pounded. "Yes." "Good," he said. "Meet me in my office, now." His words were like a beacon in the storm. The weight of truth, the promise of justice, it all rushed over me. This was no longer just about my reputation. It was about righting a wrong, restoring what had been stolen. With shaking hands, I started the car, the engine roaring to life. The cool night air filled the cabin as I gripped the steering wheel. I wasn't running anymore. I was fighting back. Every mile I drove brought me closer, not just to Caleb's office, but to the truth. The faces of those who had doubted me, the ones who had turned their backs, the ones who had cast me aside, I would see them again, and when I did, they would see the truth. This was just the beginning, and I was ready. I felt a tremendous sense of rejuvenation. I had returned, not just to the party, but to my own destiny. A destiny that would see justice restored and honor returned. In that moment, the past was put behind, and a new chapter of truth and resilience was about to begin. I sat in the peaceful darkness of my study as the projector's beam lit the wall with the grainy image of Walter Holloway. His familiar face, wrinkled with age and wisdom, emerged before me as though he had jumped out from a long-forgotten memory. In the video, he sat in his old office, surrounded by the artifacts of a time when honor and hard labor were the very foundation of our family legacy. His eyes, though exhausted, burned with a steady fire as he began to talk in a measured, earnest tone that cut through the silence of the room. "I have picked my successor," he stated, his voice firm and resolute. Every word he uttered carried the weight of decades of knowledge and a hope that the future of Holloway Industries would stay unblemished by greed or dishonesty. I listened closely, feeling as though his words were meant just for me. A final, loving instruction from a man who had created not only a business, but also a history of integrity and trust. Walter spoke of his disappointment in those who sought to manipulate the firm for personal advantage. He stressed that the genuine strength of our family's work lay not in the lure of money, but in the desire to honor the ideals upon which it was formed. This firm, he remarked, is not a treasure to be fought for, but a flame to be passed on, with care and respect. His tone was soft, yet filled with an undeniable authority that made every phrase resonate in my heart. As I absorbed his letter, a shiver raced down my spine, and I felt the tremendous anguish of knowing that, even in death, Walter had foretold the betrayal that now threatened to ruin everything we had built. Then, in a twist of fate that intensified, the pain of that fateful night, the audio altered. The tape transitioned, capturing the raw, unguarded voice of Lauren. Her words, oozing with self-interest, flooded the air and left no doubt about her true motives. In an unintentional confession, she stated that her heart was not in preserving the tradition of our family business, but purely focused on the wealth it could bring. The clarity and harshness of her admission wounded me profoundly, as if each word was a knife twisting into the wounds of our fragmented past. The people at the party, who had once cheered and jeered in equal measure, now stood in stunned silence. Their expressions reflected the dawning realization that the truth was far more complex than the lies they had been fed. I could feel the weight of every angry eye and whispered condemnation, yet for the first time since that horrible night, I felt the warmth of vindication, coupled with a heavy grief. Walter's final remark was more than a statement of fact. It was a benediction, a call to honor the ideals he held dear, and a command to restore the legacy of integrity to the organization he had built. His voice, even over the static of the old tape, persuaded me that I was meant to carry the torch forward, to fight for the truth against the destructive impact of